Hello and welcome to the Little Wicket Railway second channel. I was about to upload this video but realised it needed a little bit of an explanation to make sense. So this is a cab tour of 1382, which is a Yorkshire Engine Company half Janus diesel electric shunter. And we filmed this way back in November 21 when I went to Rocks by Rail, the Living Ironstone Museum in Rutland. I made a full video about the museum, which is over on the main channel, so I'll put a link to that in the description below and up in the corner, so go check that out. But this cab tour didn't really fit in with that main video, so it got cut, but I actually thought it was quite interesting and it was probably deserving of its own bit of content. The problem was we weren't really planning on doing a cab tour video when we went, so it was all a bit rushed and unplanned. Both the microphones you can see us wearing in the video failed, so the audio is from the camera, and I've done my best to tidy that up, but it's not the best. At one point the camera went completely out of focus, so I had to cut that section, and generally it's not the slickest production. But I still think it's really interesting. Stephen did a brilliant job of explaining everything in the cab and how it all worked, and it's too good to waste. And that's what this second channel is for all that stuff that doesn't quite make it onto the main channel, but I still want to share it with you. So whilst you're here, why not subscribe to the channel and give this video a like? If you haven't yet, subscribe to the main channel as well. There's lots more higher production quality content on there. And here is the cab tour of 1382. This is Stephen. He works here on the railway. What is your exact role?
Like I say, my name's Stephen. I'm here as part of the IDRPG, which Toby has spoken to you already about. I'm going to be here telling you about 1382 here, to which I am part owner with a few others of our group. So intent is to give you a show around.
Yeah, please. Show me how it all works.
Right, so if you join me up here.
I'm probably going to ask some stupid questions here, but first things first, this is a diesel.
It is, yes.
Diesel electric.
It is.
Okay, and what's the difference between a diesel electric and a diesel hydraulic?
Probably the best way to explain it now is, in the front, just like all the other diesels, there is a diesel engine. In this case, it is directly powering a big generator, like just a smaller version of what like you have in power stations, things like that. Then through the controls which you see in front of us, that power is fed to an electric motor which then drives the wheels round.
Right.
In terms, because that's different to the other deals, it is diesel hydraulics is the other most common one, which is, best way to describe that is like an automatic car. You drive engines through a gearbox, things like that, and it's literally, as a car, as you open the throttle, it powers the wheels mechanically.
Right. And you've been driving for about 10 years, you said earlier.
Yes, various different locomotives, various different railways, yeah. So it's been a while, been about a bit of practice.
Okay, so talk us through all the levers and bits and pieces in here then.
Well, start over on this side. So, most important one of all, the brake handle. This is air brakes on all these, so the more I move the handle forwards, the more pressure it puts in the system and clamping blocks onto the wheels. There is other locomotives as well which would run a brake over the whole train, which is where you go to vacuum brake systems, where you create a vacuum in a pipe and that holds the brakes off until you let air in and it clamps the brakes on, so it's more like a fail-safe. But when you're talking more of these industrial locos, they literally have the brake on the loco themselves, rather than the rest of the train is kind of loose hanging behind, which is usually why they have a brake van on the back. Right. In case the train breaks, the man in the brake van can wind the brake on and bring everything to a safe stop.
And then, again, stupid question, the wagons have individual brakes on them as well, do they?
They are, yes. They're manually operated with levers, so they're more used for obviously when they're parked up stationary. Sometimes they can be put on to help go down steep hills, or back in the day they did used to loose shunt, or fly shunt as it was sometimes called. So it was literally they rolled down a hill with a few of the brakes pinned on just to make it stop at the bottom. So some yards were dealt with like that.
But basically, most of the braking on these industrial trains came from the locomotive.
The locomotive only, yeah.
And that's that one.
That one there, yeah.
And we have one on both, so all the controls, they look like they're mirrored.
They are mirrored and they are all linked together.
Okay.
So if I was to push this handle on here, you should see there, and you can hear there's still some air in the system. You can hear the brakes coming on and off.
Right.
So that's the air brakes.
And that's presumably so you can drive from both sides?
Yes. So obviously, as you're going, a lot of them, these used to work on small sites with tight corners, so quite often you'd have to be jumping back and forth, which you might have seen us do while we were doing the shunting demonstrations, jumping back and forth from controls just so you could see where you're going and where you're coming from.
Okay, next lever.
Moving further this way. The other most important one, this is the throttle. Obviously on these ones, it's, with it being diesel electric, as you would first pull it on. That first click is where it connects all the electric circuits together. And then as you pull it further, you're literally accelerating the engine or revving the engine up. So the faster it spins, the more power you get.
We obviously didn't go very fast earlier, but what kind of speed can this get up to?
This one in particular is roughly about 18 mile an hour max speed. You can go a little bit faster. These obviously they're not designed for speed. They're designed for pulling very heavy loads. This one in particular, when it was at its previous locations, we've had a few thousand tons of steel behind it, just as a more of a proof test, load test when we first got it, just to check if everything was working okay. But down here it's the little lighter loads with the brake vans, but it still gets it a good run.
So it's power, not speed?
Yes, right. Pulling power.
Okay, so what's next?
Moving on to this one. This is the sanding lever. So pulling it up or pushing it down, the pipes which you see, which you can see leading, there's some at the front, some at the back, which point down into the space where the wheel contacts the rail, and it just pours sand in front of it for slippy conditions.
So this is for extra grip, pulling heavy loads and.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, around here we've got a lot of trees and things which fall on the track, and obviously when it gets wet, it can be a bit slippy, coming something down some of the slopes and with the weight behind as you use them quite a lot.
You've got a slight gradient here, haven't you, as well?
There is, going up into the quarry, yes.
Okay.
Moving on, this one, linking back to our theory of automatic cars, this is literally just forwards and reverse. It's direction.
Just changing how things are engaged.
Yeah, behind these panels, there's basically like a half a circle with a slit down it, and obviously when you push it that way, one set of contacts is touching, and then as you slide it back, they're like fingers on a contact. So you're swapping the circuits round as you pull the lever, so it connects to the motor in the other direction.
Okay. And I got to try this one earlier, which is one of my favourites, but that's the horn, right?
It is. There's a little bit of air left in it if you want to give it a push. People will wonder if we're moving, but...
Just blame me.
There you go.
That is a fun thing to do.
Yeah. The most important thing that's on it, the warning devices.
So we've got some gauges.
We have.
Do you know what? I didn't even notice these existed. So what have we got?
A lot of them, most will be familiar with. That's engine RPM. So again, similar to what you get in your cars. Fuel pressure, oil temperature. That's battery charge, whether the dynamo on the engine's charging the batteries. Water temperature. And then we have down here at the bottom, speedo. As you can see, it goes up to 25, so quite ambitious with the top speed's only 18. And then this one is the air pressure. So you've got two needles on there. One tells you the pressure in the tanks, and then the other one being the pressure of brake you're applying. So as you push that lever up, that second needle will slowly come up as well. Obviously we've been shut down for a short while now, so yeah, the air does slowly leak out over time.
Okay. What else we got?
There's the other main bigger wheel behind us here. This one, it's not steering wheel, it's a handbrake. So,
just to be clear, I didn't ask that question earlier.
No, I'm not saying it was you. But no, basically it's a big handbrake, you wind it on. You'll find some wagons which have wheels like this as well, others have the levers, but yeah, park it up, wind it on, and it works on the same linkages as the air does. So, that's that.
Other things?
Small, basic electrics on this one.
Is that like fuse box, or is that just like?
Yeah, so there is fuses in here, and they're on the old style like you used to have in your house, which actually have a thin wire in them.
All right.
So, but basically, it's all the lights, headlights, the cab heater's on there somewhere.
It's actually quite a luxurious locomotive because it's got Well, I've just discovered it's got a heater.
It has.
These seats are quite
It's
nice.
got some, yeah.
Some like leather
Nice leather seats.
BR British Railway seating.
They are a bit of fabric we come across when they needed reupholstering.
Oh, we've got another lever.
That lever controls the electrical system in the loco. It's mainly done for mainly for starting it and running it. Hence, two positions: start and run. Unlike a car engine, which usually has a starter motor on them, this one, as I said, has got the large generator which it powers, which it uses to generate power for moving the loco. But when you start it up, it actually turns that into a large starter motor. So you'd change this into start, which makes the batteries 48 volts, it's like large truck, lorry batteries. You would start the engine up and then switch the lever over back into 24 volt for running all the lights and the ancillaries and things like that.
Right. And so how I didn't even think about this earlier. Where is the start button?
You got two buttons on this panel here. Large green one, start. Small red one, stop. Simple as that. One button.
Do you know what? I was always a steam person, but the more I've been in here, I'm starting to enjoy these little industrial diesels.
It's the one nicer thing over them, or one of the nicer things over them. You can just roll up, start them, and you pretty much, after you've built some air pressure, you're away. Rather than having to light a fire and wait for it to build steam for the next few hours.
What's this thing? Just says reset on it.
It does. The best way to explain that, it's a safety device because you've got high voltage electricity and high current. As you can see, the power gauge here, which is how many amps you're putting to the motor driving the train. So you can go all the way up to 600 amps on there, and the generator runs at about 500 volts.
Wow.
So you're talking about a lot of power there. So that is basically a safety device. So if anything electrical was to short to the bodywork, it would go through this device, and that is like a relay, and it cuts the power. So then
a bit like your residual current device on your garden lawnmower.
It's exactly like that, an RCD in your house. Yeah, does exactly the same job.
What's this thing?
That is basically an old style of an hours meter. Inside, it's like a mechanical wind-up clock, and there's a weight which slowly works its way down, turning the clock to know how long the engine's been running. So it's basically a start, how long it's been running for.
In a single session?
Yeah.
Okay. Why is that?
So it's like a driving hours clock for lorry drivers.
Oh, right.
So you can work out how long people have been, how long it's been on the go.
Gotcha. The only other bits, these things. There's one there and there's one over there. Are they the same?
There should be four, one for each window. They are, in fact, the window wiper motors.
Oh, right.
They run, we're slowly refitting these ones, so they run off the same air supply as all the brakes and all that. And yeah, turn them on, and it slowly, there should be a wiper on there, but that lever basically works its way up and down and would wipe the windows.
Do you know what? I would never even have thought they look so much more complicated than being window wiper motors.
Yeah, look, it's a luxury, that one.
Another potentially stupid question.
No.
Like a car, do you need a key to start this?
You don't.
Right.
The only key we have is this one here, which is for the door. That's the only key.
That's what stops people coming in here and taking it for a joyride. Some,
in this one, we do have, obviously, you can have isolators on the batteries. Just like, old cars and things, you'd have a big isolation key just so people can't start it and things like that. So, yeah, it does have that on it, but physically, like an ignition on a car, it doesn't have such a thing.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Stephen.
It's all right. My pleasure.